So, um, we finally did it. We're finally here. We're finally at the plot point that everyone has been waiting for until it is revealed. And that is, who is the UA traitor? And we get confirmed who it might possibly be in this chapter. And we'll talk a little bit more about that right after this. Hey guys, how's it going? It is your boy Manga Man Drew, and I'm here to do my review for My Hero Academia manga chapter 335 titled Fledgling. And yeah, let's just say that even though the title of this chapter is Fledgling and we do focus on the students, probably what everyone is going to be talking about is what we got revealed at the end of this chapter, which is who the UA traitor is. And to be honest, it's probably exactly who you expect, but probably also something that you didn't expect. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when we actually get to the end of the chapter, but we're actually going to go for the review portion of this because overall, I think this was a okay chapter of My Hero Academia, especially coming off the last few chapters which were really good. This is an okay chapter where they're doing, when it comes to Hirokoshi, a lot more setup. We get a lot of information about what's going to be going on in the future and potentially the roles that the students are going to play, and once again the UA traitor reveal, but we do also focus on how they've grown a little bit in reference to the title of the chapter, as well as getting more into what the villains are doing and who the heroes have to fight. So before we get more into the review proper, I'd like to ask you, if you haven't done so, to subscribe to my YouTube channel. We're almost at 1,000 subscribers, and that is amazing. So why don't you subscribe to my YouTube channel so that we can push past that 1,000 subscriber threshold? And while you're hitting that subscribe button, why not leave a comment and leave a like on the video to show that you like this type of content? And with that, let's get right into the review. To start off, we actually start off the chapter with a simple cover page of All Might holding an egg, as the title of this chapter is Fledglings, and you know, fledglings are most referencing to young birds, birds that have just recently hatched out of an egg. So you know, this chapter is going to be excellent. It's going to be extraordinary. It's going to be exciting. Sorry, I'll stop with all of these egg puns. Yeah, they're not really that great of yolks. So we start off the chapter continuing what happened last chapter with All Might talking to the students about how they're going to be playing a role in trying to defeat Shigaraki, with them also learning that a star has died most likely. We don't get really a whole lot of reactions to it, but that's because they really didn't know her that well. It's like, yeah, you're sad that a celebrity has died, but it's like you didn't really have that deep of a connection with them, so it's sad, but you're not going to be deeply in mourning for them, which makes sense. But yeah, we do start them talking about the information that they gained from the pilots and the fight that Star had with Shigaraki. It is confirmed that they do now know that New Order was stolen, but that it's acting as a poison for All for One for Shigaraki, and that it's most likely that he won't be able to use his quirks. But they also say, at least in this translation, that we do not get a list of the quirks, and that they identify that a lot of the quirks inside of All for One was destroyed, but that they don't have an exact number for it. Which to me is a little bit disappointing, because I was really hoping that we would just have this small strategy meeting where they're going to go over all of the quirks that All for One has so that they can come up with strategies with it. Unfortunately, that is not the case, but it does make sense that they would now have this information that Shigaraki won't be able to use as many quirks as he can, and that it's going to be a limited number, meaning that we won't have to be able to see every single quirk that he can use. And from what we see at the end of the chapter, kind of like one quirk that I thought that he wouldn't have, he still has, but it ties into sort of kind of the UA traitor ideal, and we'll talk a little bit about that at the end of the chapter. So yeah, All Might and students are talking about that. They're talking about how eventually they're going to have to go to war, and that what Star and Stripe did was give them an unlikely opening, and how they talk about how their main priority is to make sure that all of the people, the general public, are safe. As we go through sort of like a list of all of the people that they have to fight, or a list of their enemies. They talk about Shigaraki, how he's going to be the greatest enemy, that you have original All for One's body, Dabi, the insane villain. Really enough, Himiko Toga, the troublesome little girl. Like, among every one of these descriptions, like, the main, like, 4 that we get of like actual people, like Toga is like the least and the lowest on that level, but like she's still like very impactful because she's a troublesome little girl. Translations, but still. We also do have the 6 remaining Nomu. At first there used to be 7, but you know, the flying Nomu got destroyed, so they do have that confirmation, as well as the rest of the Paranormal Liberation Front, which would include most likely the 123 that escaped during the war, and potentially a little bit more that they've gathered over time, as we do see a panel of all of the people, some of them that we've seen, some of them we haven't, but we also get another confirmation that at this moment, a little bit over half of the heroes that existed in Japan are no longer there, and it may be more than that. So it means that not only did a lot of villains like get arrested, but half the heroes that were heroes are no longer there, and that's very interesting. And we have them bring up this idea that there could be potentially more of them, and this idea actually comes from Shoji, which is very interesting, and I will tie this in because this kind of in this chapter hints potentially to who the UA Traitor is, and that potentially Shoji may play a role in revealing them later on to the other students. So just keep that in the back of your mind when it comes to the Traitor when we actually get to them. But yeah, they talk about how the heroes have been lost and how they're in this battle, and that the only reason why they have this chance is because of Star and Stripe, so that these kids should just start training to become stronger. Where you just have Bakugo yell, is like, we've already been doing that, which is where we get into another conference. So yeah, in this chapter, it is confirmed that the students have been training with the Wild Wild Pussycats after the war, and that while All Might was away with Deku, that they've actually been training, as we see that some of them do have new designs or new clothing. We do get to see, weirdly enough, Ojiro looking even more jacked than usual, because of course he is. But yeah, they're all saying that they have been training and that they're ready to stop All For One. They're still going to do a lot more training, and you know what? This kind of makes sense. We didn't see them explicitly train their quirks or go through this training montage, but it is alluded to the fact that they have been training, because we did get to see new super moves from them, specifically from Tokoyami as well as Bakugo. So it does make sense that they were training this entire time, and the fact that they've been going out to try and look for Deku, it would make sense that they will also keep into like a training regimen to keep themselves in shape. So that just makes sense. And then you just have this funny scene where you just have Deku's like, oh yeah, don't worry. We're going to be training, but also apparently Kachan said that, I quote, I'll make sure you master All For One, as you just have Bakugo being Bakugo. It's like, no, I didn't say that. All I'm saying is that I want to use this new cluster technique on him. We still don't know what the cluster technique is, which means that most likely when we're going to see it is going to be in a battle against the enemy, where it's potentially going to literally one-shot someone. So that's going to be very interesting to see, as we also have Shoto looking at his hand as he's like, I see, most likely referring to a new move that he has also developed, as you just have just the next few pages, just the students talking about how, oh yeah, we're gonna train, yeah, we're gonna get stronger, we're gonna defeat Shigaraki, we're gonna make sure that Stars and Stripes sacrifice isn't in vain, we're gonna do it. And while you have all of the students talking about how they're going to start training to defeat Shigaraki and All For One, you just have All Might, who's remembering their first training lessons and thinking about how they finally hatched. These fledgling heroes have finally come into their own, and how they've become very strong, and that he's referring that they are strong all for one, as if he's talking to All For One and telling him like, yeah, these kids are strong, you are underestimating them, and that may be your downfall, which is a cool transition over to the League of Villains, or the Paranormal Liberation Front, specifically certain characters of the League of Villains, where we see Shigaraki just writhing on the ground, just rolling around, yelling at All For One that he's gonna kill him, and that he's gonna kill everyone, and that he hates him, because of course he does, as you have All For One, it's like, just come down the other me. Like, everything's going to be fine. Your quirk factor is damaged. We can't really use our quirks again, but it's going to be fine. So yeah, that's very interesting what All For One just said. I'm not sure if that's a translation thing, but the fact that his quirk factor is damaged is very interesting, because if his quirk factor is damaged, that means that he can't use a quirk properly. And we do see him use his quirk when a Star and Stripe is like trying to destroy him, but that could be like he was able to use it then, but we do see Star and Stripe's vestige like ripping into All For One, so his quirk factor was probably damaged in that, so he's going to need time to heal, which is ironic because it means that his like hyper regeneration isn't working. But yeah, as this is all happening, you do have Shigaraki saying that as long as someone who remembers All Might still exists, that this hatred will never cease. You just get this small dialogue from All For One saying that that he feels Shigaraki's hatred, his violence, that he also feels mad, but more specifically, he says that our consciousness is fused. And like I said, this could be something a little bit more different when it comes to a different translation. But if this is the case, it means that during that time period where Shigaraki was supposed to be completed within that 2 to 3 day time span, he technically was completed in the sense of his consciousness was completely fused with All For One's inside of Shigaraki, and that the percentages was not about him becoming like fully realized and becoming like 100% his perfect form when it comes to strength, but just 100% when it comes to his perfected state, which would be both his physical body and his mental capacity being fused with All For One. So that could just be tying into the idea that he was going to be completed in 4 months. It's just more of the mental completion is already done, and now he just has to repair his quirk factor so he'll be up and running to, you know, cause mass chaos. So yeah, after we get to see All For One's confirmation of his consciousness being fused with Shigaraki, he goes into this little diatribe, this little monologue about how everything is going to be all right, and that never a good idea to stick to just one single plan, as you just have Toya Dabi chiming in is like, nope, I'm done with all of this. Like, I can't stand my father just doing what he does nonchalantly. We need to get this over with. As you just have All For One saying, Toya-kun, it's you and me, we're very alike in many different ways. And I'm like, yeah, y'all actually are. Y'all both have like just physical deformities on your faces. Y'all both have very powerful quirks. You're both evil, you're both male. Yeah, y'all got a lot in common. But he brings up like something that's crucially different between him and Toya, which is that All For One has a tendency to have multiple plans in place, which, you know what, makes sense. If we think about what Dabi's idea or Dabi's plan was, it was to use the footage of Hawks killing twice to try and defame Endeavor, and then immediately going for the kill, and that didn't work because Best Genius was still alive. So Dabi didn't think multiple plans ahead like All For One, so that's probably why his plan didn't go the way that he wanted. But once again, All For One brings up this idea that he has multiple routes to his one goal, and that he, if one route fails, that he goes down another one. If that one fails, he goes down another one. And we do see this image of like what that would be representing. But then he also brings up another difference about how he knows that Midoriya has returned to the fortified UA, and that there is also something else that is different between him and Toya Todoroki. And here's where we get the big reveal. He says that the main difference between them and I is that he has a lot of friends, where we immediately cut over to Toru Hagakure. And from what we're seeing in this chapter, it's implying that she is the UA traitor among the students, as we get a little line of text from this translation saying that a shocking reveal is the traitor really color spread next chapter. So here's what's interesting. If we take what that line is saying as fact, yeah, the UA traitor starts with an H, and Hagakure starts with an H. So it's very heavily implying that Hagakure, Invisible Girl, is the UA traitor, and you know, it makes sense. So yeah, we're probably going to talk about this a little bit more when the official chapter comes out, but I'll just give my initial thoughts on it. And I think that having Toru Hagakure as the UA traitor, it makes sense. Like, it just makes sense. Now, is it the biggest reveal in the world? No. Is it the most impactful reveal in the world? No. Do any people really truly care about Hagakure? Depends, but here's the thing. it's not really about whether or not the reveal is like extremely shocking or extremely impactful. I think what is important about a Traitor's reveal is if it makes sense. And from what we see with the chapter, at least when it comes to how the Traitor could do the things that they've done, it makes sense that an invisible woman would be able to do it. And like I said, I'll dive a little bit more into it, but we also have to realize that this isn't the reveal to the students. We as the readers know that she is potentially the traitor, but the students don't know that. And I'll actually tie this in. The students don't know it, with the possible exception of Shoji. Because we did get a focus of Shoji in this chapter, and among all of the students that have a relationship with Hagakure, Shoji is one of them because he participated in like the training exercise with her. But then the second one would be Ojiro, which is more to do with headcanon shipping. But with that in mind, this could potentially be leading into the reveal of Hagakure's betrayal to the other students, which it may not be like impactful to us, but it's definitely going to be impactful to the students because she's a class A student. Like, they've trained with her for over a year or so. So the fact that it's a traitor among their midst, it's going to be very impactful to those students in one way or another. And we also have to realize that we don't know why she's a traitor. Like, if she's just a traitor for evil's sake, yeah, that's going to be a very weak traitor plot, but we just don't know. And we have to wait a little bit more until the actual reveal of her identity to the other members of Class 1A. So, what did I think of this chapter? I thought this was a alright chapter of My Hero Academia. We did focus a lot on the first half of the students being informed and just a lot of exposition, but you know, it's important to have exposition in a story. They needed to know the reasoning why Shigaraki is not completed in a week, and that they need to begin coming up with a plan and be like briefed on who they are going to be fighting, which just makes sense for them to have that information. We also get a little bit revealed that they have been going through training, where we've seen hints of it when they tried to rescue Deku with the new moves, as well as hinting at some new moves that they have for Bakugo, for Kirishima potentially, and even for Shoto. So we're most likely going to, if not see them within the next few chapters, at least we've been hinted at them later on in the future. As well as we get to just get a little bit more confirmation from All Might that these kids are not necessarily kids anymore. They were fledglings, or they still are fledglings, but they're about to grow into full-fledged heroes. They've gone through a lot within their first year, but that they're not the same kids that they used to be. They are willing to help and stop All For One, knowing the risk, because that's the type of heroes that they are. They are heroes that want to save people, and that is kind of like the core idea of what My Hero Academia is. What makes a hero and what makes heroism, and these kids pretty much embody what that is. So whether or not Hagakure being revealed as the UA traitor is impactful to the readers, that may not be as important as what it would mean to the students as a whole. Because we also got to see a lot of the villains and what they're doing at this time, but it tied into the traitor reveal, potentially that search quirk is still active, because we do get to see like that shining light, which is sort of an indication of search being used. But that's just speculation on our part. We just do not know at this moment, because most likely the quirk factor at this moment is destroyed to the point where they can't use the quirk, but still. But connections there, and the Pussycats were brought up in this chapter, so that is a possibility. But overall, like I said, I really liked this chapter. I didn't think that it did something very spectacular, and that we just should wait a little bit longer to get the reveal elaborated a little bit more, because even though it was revealed to us, it hasn't been revealed to the students and the other classmates yet. And we just have to wait a little bit more, because a reveal like this isn't something that can just be covered in the end of a chapter, that it needs to be elaborated more on. So yeah, that's all I really have to say about this chapter. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Hopefully you enjoyed my review. And if you did, leave a like down below. And let me ask you the question. Do you think that this is a good reveal? Or do you think that Hagakure could have been the traitor from the beginning? Do you think that it makes sense? Do you think that it's logical? Leave your thoughts down in the comments down below. Leave a like on the video if you liked it. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. And don't forget to hit that notification bell to be notified for whenever I upload more content like this. Do all that cool jazz. And hopefully I'll be able to catch you in my next video. Goodbye.